Hello and welcome back to the Fighting Talk 2 podcast with myself, Mr. Fighting Talk, joined as always by the fantastic co-hosts of the show, George and Prath. I'm not going to say your nicknames this week because it's a bit of a tongue twister and I can never get it right. But how we doing, boys? All good?
All good, thank you. How are you?
All good, man. All good. Prath, how we doing, bro?
I'm doing good. I'm just laughing at George's intro face is magic.
Yeah, man. Anyway, we had a absolutely fantastic night of fights. You know, when we did the pre-fight, we said it's these kind of cards that people sleep on. You know, people kind of sleep on these cards because there's no huge names, but there's names that want to be huge. Do you know what I mean? There's names that want to get into that big light and make the big bucks essentially. And everyone put on a show last night, didn't they? Everyone went out there and put on an absolute show. I think if you were to bet that seven of the eight prelims or whatever wouldn't go the distance, I think it was pretty good odds because we'd all assume that at least a few of them would go the distance, but it was just banger after banger, wasn't it? It was just absolutely crazy. Prath, what was your favourite fight of the night, man? We'll obviously start at the beginning because there's so much to get through.
Favorite fight of the night. I mean, for me, the favorite fight that I saw that I got the most excited for was definitely watching our boy Tom Aspinall go out there and give Andrei Arlovski that work, man. Super proud, super awesome to see the improvements as well. Fight to fight, just seems to really embrace the things that he did wrong in the last fight, adjust and improve. And that's what you want to see from a newly emerging, rising fighter in the UFC. You want to see them make, he's come out, he's had a couple of TKO wins here as well. So it's really awesome to see him get a submission win because I feel like a lot of guys, when they get those kind of back-to-back knockouts, especially at the heavyweight division, they fall in love with the hands and that's ultimately what leads to their demise. E.g. Curtis Blaydes, as we're going to probably discuss in a bit here. So really awesome to see a well-rounded game coming from our boy Tom Aspinall, Liverpool stand up. That made me super happy.
Yeah, he had an absolutely fantastic performance. And as we've said a million times on this show, he came in at I think it was 234 or something. He was looking very, very lean for a heavyweight. He was looking strong. Obviously, he comes from a BJJ background anyway. But as you said, he's had a lot of success with his hands because he's so damn quick. He caught Arlovski early with a few right hands that just came out of nowhere. I felt like he could have finished with a TKO. I feel like it reminded me of the John Jones versus Gustafsson too. He could have sunk a sub if he wanted to, but he thought, you know what, I'm going to pummel him. Whereas Aspinall kind of went the other way. Do you know what I mean? Aspinall was in your crush corner last week, George, right? I bet it was good to see your boy catch the W, huh?
50 G's as well. 50 G's. Happy day.
For Liverpool now.
He's the richest scouser in the world at the moment. Unbelievable. Yeah, no, he was great. He was fantastic. And do you know what? I haven't seen a heavyweight move like Aspinall in a long time. He's like this new breed of heavyweight that's coming through. You think about him and I guess Dorcas, who we'll talk about as well in a bit, and Cyril Gahn and guys like that. It's like it felt like last night was a changing of the guard kind of night. Dorcas and Aspinall coming through and Oleinik and Arlovski maybe heading on the way out now. But, his footwork and his hand movement and his head movement and his hand speed are all they're just so uncommon for heavyweights. And I think that's going to make people pretty worried about where Tom Aspinall, about potentially fighting him. I think he's a super dangerous contender coming through. But, he peppered him in the first round, controlled it, I thought, for pretty much the most part, shot for the takedown, quick sub, happy days, 50 grand, sorted. What a night. And he's looking really good. He's looking like a serious contender, Tom Aspinall. There's obviously a lot to work on. And he's quite open and honest as well about that. After the fight, he was kind of saying, wasn't he, like, I'm not ready for the big guys yet. I need more fights. I've got loads of time. It could take me 10 years to win a title here in the UFC. But man, he's looking pretty good. And I hope that if the hype train does run away with him, that he's able to continue going. But he looks like a kind of guy who has got all the tools in the box to definitely get himself further up those rankings in 2021.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, as well, as we've said in the past, and the average age of a heavyweight in the UFC is like 34, right? And Tom Aspinall, if I'm not mistaken, is 27. So he is already so many years away from being technically in his prime. So he could be, by the time he gets to 34, he'll be, way better than all these kind of heavyweights that are sat there. But as we said before we hit record, I reckon he could get down to 205 if he really wanted to. He would obviously have to lose a little bit of the chub, but he's not a chubby guy. But he looks very, very, very good at this weight. But I reckon he could get to 205 if he wanted to. And maybe there's a few more challenges there. But maybe that's in the future for him as well. Maybe he wants to see what he can do in the heavyweight division, and then move down to light heavyweight and make some noise down there.
Might as well just become champ, mightn't he? Might as well win heavyweight title and then go down light heavyweight, win a title there, and happy days.
Yeah, because you can't be the GOAT unless you're the champ, or as Izzy is trying to do, be the champ, right?
Apparently.
But before that,
and GSP is the GOAT.
Say that.
But before we even got to the Aspinall fight, we obviously had a few absolute bangers on the prelims. It was like you're expecting a decision. You're thinking, right, this is going to be a scrub. It's going to be 15 minutes of just grinding out, and then bang. And there was a couple of fights that looked very, very similar. Zahabi versus Rodriguez, and also Wylam versus Castaneda. In the first 3 minutes of the fight, they were just looking a bit hesitant, Rodriguez and Zahabi and Castaneda. They were looking a bit hesitant, and everyone was, I was on social media at the time doing like live tweeting, and it was like, right, well, this is going to be an easy win. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, but both of the guys, it was almost like deja vu. They just caught these huge punches, and I think they were both pretty much straight KOs. It was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane to see Ariel Helwani. I believe he called out Ariel Helwani after the fight as well, right? That is absolute gold.
I was thinking that on his walkout as well. When he was walking towards the cage, I was like, is he intentionally trying to be looking like Ariel Helwani here, or is this just a mistake? And he's gotten to the cage and then like, oh my god, I don't realize I look like Ariel Helwani.
It was class.
What I will say is though, guys, a lot of the Ariel Helwani is the MMA reporter go of definitely. But what I do want to say is it is really, really awesome to see Ayman Zahabi come out and throw on a really patient game from a guy who got spinning elbow knockout maybe like 2 years ago, took a break from MMA, came back. Man, the amount of pressure that must be on Ayman Zahabi, having just that last name alone, and being one of the stronger representatives of TriStar Gym, like it's really, really good to see him come out, be patient, beautiful 1-2, dropped him, no, like maybe like one shot after, but you could see he like immediately remorseful, put his hands in the air, got up, bow down. Like that's another thing about MMA I really love is that, when Leo Umachida knocked out, what's his name? Mark, the Filipino wrecking machine, Mark Munoz, when he knocked him out with the head kick and then he didn't hit him afterwards. And it's that for me is one of the premier things about mixed martial arts for me. And to see him not take the shot. And obviously we're going to talk about this heavyweight knockout at the end, Curtis Blaydes getting those two shots after the knockout was there. Like you could see that Ayman Zahabi knocked him down. You could see that he was clearly out as well, and he really fell awkwardly as well. He kind of fell to his side. Yeah, it was almost not whereas most guys get knocked out and they go straight to their back, and they're as like Curtis Blaydes. And I think maybe he didn't notice he was completely knocked out, but you could see as soon as he stopped hitting him that the leg was real stiff. And good stoppage, I would say, that as good as it can be in that situation. I feel like some of the refs do need to be a little bit closer to the action to stop those unnecessary shots from happening. The Masvidal clause, the Masvidal clause of not stopping the fighter until the ref pulls them off. And I think a lot of people really judge MMA fighters for the shots that they throw after the fight, not realizing that they are basically in a fight without thinking, okay, I'm going to stop hitting this person. They only stop when the referee pulls them off. And I think Ayman showed class here by stopping before the ref stopped him, letting the ref come in and do that clean break. Big up Ayman Zahabi, and congratulations on an incredible performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a very fine line, as Derek Lewis said after the fight, he was like, well, how do I know he's not just going to stand up? If you look back at the the Wilder Fury fight, and everyone thought he was done. Everyone thought Tyson Fury was done, and then all of a sudden, he literally performed the Undertaker and got up and was like, "Yeah, cool, I'm ready now." Obviously, in boxing, you can't have them shots on the ground, but you just do not know when you can hit someone so hard.
Hey, sorry, I just
As I was saying, sorry, but we were just discussing about the Wilder versus Fury thing when he did the Undertaker afterwards, and Derek Lewis said in his post-fight that you just don't know. Curtis Blaydes has got a chin. Do you know what I mean? He's got a beard and he's got a chin. You just don't know how he's going to get up. And to be fair, Herb Dean was very, very far away from the action. There's a lot of memes at the moment about Herb Dean running across the octagon, you know. But then last time when Herb Dean was too close to the action, I believe there was two female fighters a few weeks ago that he kind of accidentally got too close because he was checking in on the action. You know, it's one of them things. I had a look at how many fights Herb Dean has reffed in his career, right? And he has reffed nearly 6,000 fights. And you think, you go, oh, but what about this fight? He messed up. What about this fight? He messed up. You're looking at a fraction of a percent of how many times this guy has messed up compared to how many times he hasn't. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is one of the most difficult jobs out there, both to be a judge and to be a referee. Because you're too close, you get penalised. You're too far away, you get penalised. It's an absolute minefield with regards to how much of the action you can be, you know, involved with, or you know, we see a lot of people complaining that there's not enough groundwork. And then, to be honest with you, Chris Tione fucking pissed me off last night as well, because he was just letting shit go on for ages, and I felt like there was a few fights that he was like, really, you've let this go on a little bit too far. You know, the Dobson versus O'Neal fight, when it was like, she's clearly in a terrible position. She hasn't done anything for a good amount of time. Get her out of the fight so she can fight another day. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them things. It's one of them things. Sometimes they get it right. The Spivak versus Vandera fight was very, very good as well. Spivak looked absolutely fantastic out there. George, what do you see next for him? Because you look a little bit like Spivak, you know.
I'll take it. First of all, Herb Dean, 6,000 fights he's refed.
Very close to, yeah.
That's a mixed martial arts goat right there. We're going to be talking about goats at some point, and that he might be my goat. But
he's the gold standard.
I don't really know where Spivak goes from here. He's a young kid. I think he's 26, so he's pretty. You know, and what is he? 12-2, is it? 12, 13-2. I suppose it's looking now, just trying to find yourself somewhere in that, a guy in that kind of 15 to 22 range, somewhere in there, kind of on the periphery of breaking in, and kind of go from there. I don't, if I'm being honest, know who's in the 15 to 22 range. Other more professional people will know that. And but I can't guess that's where he goes from here. It was a good performance though from Spivak. I got to be honest though, I must have gotten confused with somebody else, because I thought there's another guy called Spivak who's like, you know, he's like 50. I feel like I got him really confused with somebody. But when I looked at his age, it's like 26. I sworn that guy's been around for like 30 years. But I must have got that really, well, I did get it really wrong. But yeah, no, I thought it was really good. And I guess from here, he kind of goes to like a kind of just guy on the periphery cuff. But who that is, Sean Shelby will know a lot better than I will.
I think the reason why he looks a bit like you is because we also can't figure out whether you're 26 or 45.
Oh, leave it out, Pratt. Fuck's sake, Pratt, leave it out. Right.
But I did want to add to this. I just wanted to add the top 15 there, just so we can give him some names to potentially match our boy Spivak up against here. Number 15 is Marcin Tybura. I think that would be a pretty awesome one. Sergey Pavlovich might be a really good one. Clash of the Eastern Europeans there. Blagoy Ivanov as well, who Bulgaria's finest. That'd be a pretty cool one. And number 12, who I didn't realize, is Junior Dos Santos. I didn't realize that he had gone so far down in the rankings there. So, yeah, I don't know who I would say out of all those names there, Sergey Pavlovich is the one that kind of interests me the most. Marcin Tybura would also be quite a good one as well.
Yeah.
Two things on that. First of all, I'm not an old person. I'm 25 on Tuesday, just to clarify, everybody. All right, simple as that. It's my birthday, so any birthday messages you want to drop to me, then please do. I'll gladly accept them happily. Thank you. And secondly, Spivak against any Eastern European will be fantastic, because 2 Eastern Europeans going at it is what you want to see. They're monsters. So yeah, let them crack on. Any of them, Pavlovich, Ivanov, whoever, let them go. Yeah, sweet.
I thought Spivak was from like, I thought he was Nordic. I thought he was from like Norway or something. No, where's he from?
Oh,
He's
he's
from
got to be.
He's from
Moldova.
Moldova.
Yes.
Moldova, Ukrainian. Shout out Ion Kutalaba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just while we're on the topic of age, right? I did not realize that Hawes was 33. I think we spoke
Yeah.
about this before, because he is like a prospect in the UFC and stuff like that, and he's a little bit older. I didn't realize, but after his performance yesterday, it left me to wonder how much of a prospect he really is and how much of a prospect he's going to be. You know, Imavov obviously had terrible finishing IQ. I felt like we were talking about it before, and we were talking about it last night when it was going on. He had him out on his feet. You know, Prath, you said that he was on skanky legs for a good kind of minute. The last minute of that round, he was just all over the place. But it was like he didn't know what to do. He's like, right, I've got this guy rocked, but I don't want to hit him. I don't want to take him down. I don't really know what to do here. I'm just going to keep hitting him. Oh wait, he's clinched me. What can I do now? Do you know what I mean? But Prath, what did you see, man?
I think there's so many different contributors here that we could kind of take to see what his decision making kind of was in that last third round. He could have been tired. He couldn't have seen that. He maybe didn't see that Phil Hawes was hurt. But for me, when I was looking at that, especially, I want to say it was one of the last exchanges there, he really, really hurt Phil Hawes. And you could see Phil Hawes was literally just hanging on for dear life, like literally reaching out and trying to grab him to hold on to him for dear life. And I don't know if his coaches saw that, were asking him to separate. Obviously, a lot of his corner was in French, so we naturally, I don't really understand French, so it was hard to know whether that was what they were kind of looking for. But man, I was really disappointed in Imavov in that last round, man. I really thought he could have, and you know what? I did think he was losing that by decision. I think he was losing those first couple of rounds. I think Phil Hawes was just doing what Phil Hawes does, which is to grind him out, take him down, have him in that kind of, the kind of single leg hold position up against the cage and try and look for that takedown. Imamov is a decorated kickboxer, I believe. So obviously he was looking to just keep the distance there. Phil Hawes kind of doing the typical American game plan against anyone that's a kickboxer, which is to just clinch the hell out of them. And the other thing we were kind of talking about a little bit before when we were kind of discussing the Kunitskaya fight and saying how, some people will take people down, hold the position, but not actually do anything and win a decision. And I, for myself, feel like you need to be active, and whether you're the person in the compromising position, as long as you're still doing damage, I think that is what should ultimately win you the fight here. But I do agree here with the decision that Phil Hawes kind of takes that third. I mean, I would say maybe Imamov took that third round, if anything, but not enough for me to give him the dub here overall. I did think Phil Hawes kind of showed what Americans can do here for the people who don't know, like for the people that are French and for the people that are European that may not have that kind of wrestling background. So disappointing loss, I think, for Imamov. I think he's going to hopefully look back on this and either his coaches can kind of get that message to him a little bit earlier, or maybe he does need to kind of, as he's kind of doing the shot that is looking like it's going to knock him out or at least put them on the stanky avenue, to then take that step back and look at what he's doing and go, okay, this person is clearly not all here. Let's just hunt for the finish here. And I think, and the other thing as well is maybe he did see that he was compromised, but didn't have enough gas tank to take him out. And I think that's also another factor there. So very hard to say what was ultimately the downfall of Imavov here. But I really, really feel like he could have had one of those really amazing comeback victories that, people really shower praise on Darren Elkins when he beat Mirsad Bektik right at the end of the third round. And he could have had that moment for himself. But unfortunately, maybe the opportunity, the time, all these little factors have stopped him from being able to have that moment. And now he walked away with a disappointing loss. So yeah, really hope he goes back to the drawing board, learns from these things, and moves forward.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Go on, George.
I was going to say the best thing that could happen to Imamov is that he had like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire scenario where he could phone a friend, and he could have picked up the phone, called Cyril Garn, his teammate, and gone, "Hey Cyril, how do I knock this guy out? He's off. He's gone. Like, but I can't finish him." And he would have given him the answer, and then he would have won. So he had a nightmare basically. If he'd been able to pick up the phone after round 2, he would have sorted him out.
And
But yeah,
Cyril would have said, elbow him on the side of his head, make it look like it might have been the back of the head, and then you'll be all right.
exactly. Illegal shot. Just illegal shots, man.
No. And you know what? I think I've said this before as well, and we've obviously discussed it. If that would have been a draw, I don't think anyone would have bat an eyelid. You know what I mean? Because Hawes had the first round, Imavov had the third round. I believe even one ref scored it 28-28. So it's like, why don't we just give more draws in MMA? Do you know what I mean? And then maybe have an immediate rematch clause. Obviously, with Figueiredo versus Moreno, it was a draw due to a point being deducted. But with a fight that is so close anyway, why not just give them an immediate rematch? Both of you wait 3 months or whatever your medical suspension may be, and then get back to it, and then you can have the fight again, and then you can obviously seal the deal. Do you know what I mean? There's a fighter next week that's fighting. I cannot remember his name, but he fought Kutalabe before, no, and they fought twice.
Ankalaev,
exactly. Yeah. I think he's fighting next week on the card, on the Garn Rosenstrike fight, but obviously the big kind of hoo-ha was that he was not finished, was he? Do you know what I mean? And then they got the rematch, and then naturally Ankalaev said, look, and proper put him to sleep, which kind of like seals that whole deal on it. But I would love to see more draws in MMA, and then just go, you know what? It was a great fight. None of us won. Let's do it again sometime. Do you know what I mean? But that's just me. Obviously, then we had Dorcas versus Olenek as well. And I think, how many fights? He's like 59-14 or something. The guy has been fighting since the dawn of time, right?
It was his 70th fight overall, I believe.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of times to be stepping into the cage against absolute killers as well. But I think, he is being fed to the lions as well. Like, he's not having easy fights. And, to his credit, he's getting some wins over these guys as well. But at the end of the day, when someone comes in and's got quick hands, especially against a submission artist, unless he can get them straight to the ground in the early kind of minutes to the fight to drain them and then, sink the sub, he's going to get pieced apart on the hands, isn't he?
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
I think it's kind of like watching Rodolfo Vieira to an extent, maybe not the level of what Rodolfo Vieira was doing, because I feel like, obviously he just emptied out his gas tank and just couldn't do anything. Whereas with someone like Olenek, man, I just find if he can't take them down, he's just got nothing for them, like literally has nothing for them, just a bunch of head movement, and he's just going to try and move to get away and then kind of reset to try and do another takedown again. And if he gets caught by 1 or 2 punches, he kind of just tends to shell up against the cage and just kind of wait for shots, wait till it stops, and then like kind of emerge again and go, okay, I'm going to take you down again. And that doesn't always work out when you get hit with, 35 unanswered shots or whatever it was. I believe it was like a crazy amount of unanswered shots he was taking there. Maybe another job for the referee there to maybe step in a little bit earlier, looking at a guy who is just shelling up at this point. I understand that, we have to give the fighters a chance and things like that. But when a fighter is so obviously just sitting against the cage, taking shots, not even moving his hands to get out of the way or throw another shot, I think that's where we've got to really start to draw the line there. So amazing performance by Chris Dorcas, though. What fast hands, eh?
I think Olenek actually looked at the ref. He kind of looked at him and was like, I'm done. And then put his hands up and just took a load of shots against the cage and took a load of body shots as well. And he looked, no one wants to see a verbal tap. No one wants to see that. And no one wants to see a guy take a knee or, pat the ground and say, look, I'm done now. But as you quite rightly said, it is the referee's job to jump in and be like, right, I've just looked in this guy's eyes. The dude's like 43. I'm gonna let him, go away and fight another guy. Do you know what I mean? But he just had exactly like you said, man, like nearly 35 unanswered shots, and it was head, body. He didn't want to hit him on the back of the head anymore, so he just started pounding at his kidneys, his, rib cage and everything. It was just crazy. I feel like the ref could have been a little bit more forgiving. Do you know what I mean? And been like, you know what, he's an old dude. Let's give him a break here. Do you know what I mean? But like you say, Dorcas looked absolutely fantastic out there, man. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think like third win in a row, TKO, third win in a row. I think maybe Chris Dorcas versus Tom Aspinall might be a bloody great shout here.
I think neither of them took any damage last night, and I was like, why don't we go old school tournament and get these dudes fighting on the same night? Because naturally we lost a fight. I think it actually was. I don't think it was the first fight ever in the UFC history where one fighter made the walk, got to the octagon, and then the other guy just couldn't make it out. That is insane.
Back spasms.
Social media was going crazy. Yeah, back spasms. Who knew?
Crazy.
Who knew? I thought maybe it might be pushed to maybe like sometimes on the smaller cards you get like post limbs. Do you know what I mean? So after the main card, or maybe try and squeeze it in or something like that. I think, but for the guy to have back spasms and the doctors just say, "No, that's it. You're not going out." I thought it was mad.
Did you see Luis Pena his tweet where he said, "My fight got cancelled, so me and Chaz Skelly will do it in an hour. I'm ready. I'll cut weight if I've got to. Let's go. I'll do it right now." I was like, "Oh, go on, make it happen, make it happen." That'd be so
savage.
That'd be so cool if they did that, but obviously not to be. Just quickly on Chris Dorcas as well. When you put someone in like Chris Dorcas into a cage, and he talks about his life, how he wants to give up being a police officer because he's sick of being shot at by people all the time, and that he's so desperate to change his lifestyle around, and and just have fighting as his career, putting him against guys like Oleinik, it's just not fair, to be honest. It's just going to end up one way with Oleinik being destroyed, and he was getting peppered, machine gun fire, constant. So I think when you put young, hungry killers in, and when, like Prash just said, Dorcas, Aspinall, make that fight, because that's a great fight. That's a proper fight. Two contenders up and coming.
I've just read that. I didn't realize Alexei Oleinik is 43 years old.
Yeah, I said he's 43. Yeah.
Oh my God. So that just flew under the radar for me, man. Wow.
Yeah, and he's done.
I mean, 40, can we just, let's just make it very clear that 43 is not old, right? But in the sport of fighting and getting hit in the face, 43 is old AF. Do you know what I mean? 43 is right. Let's settle down now. Do you know what I mean? And he reminded me very much of Overeem in his last fight as well. He just kind of got hit once and then just super high guard and was like, I've got nothing left. I'm literally here to cash my, what was he making? Probably like 350, 345, something like that. When these guys have been in the game for such a long time, they tend to make a good bit of coin as well. So he probably wants to see his contract out. He can probably make a mil before he finishes, and then that's it. He's done. I can definitely
ship him off to ONE FC, guys. One championship. One championship.
Talking of contracts, the main event. Did you know that Curtis Blaydes has only got one fight left in his contract?
Oh, really?
And apparently, him and Dana don't really get along, do they? So there's been.
Are we about to see Corey Anderson 2.0?
That's what I was about to say. It's Corey Anderson 2.0. It's just going to happen. He'll go off to Bellator, won't he? And he'll just dominate over there instead.
Great minds think alike, George.
But he is only 30 years old. We were saying Aspinall being 27. Curtis Blaydes is only 30, and he's accomplished so much as well in his career.
There's no way the UFC should let him go. But I'm just apparently they don't see eye to eye, him and Dana. And with only one fight left, and obviously taking a loss last night, it's obviously going to be questioned whether he might sign a new deal or not. But I think he should stay in the UFC. I still think he's a great heavyweight contender, potentially, because he is so young still.
I think Dana White doesn't care about contenders, and that might be even more true to the fact that if you're a wrestler and you're a contender and you go about your business the way that Curtis Blaydes does in the cage, I think, no matter how dominant you are or how much you are probably the best fighter in the world, when we look at Khabib, obviously everyone loves him because he's so active on the ground. Look at Curtis Blaydes, he's a little bit less. I would actually say that he's one of the more exciting ground and pound based fighters around, to be honest, man. And he is dominant here at this division. You know, he's only taken very, very few losses at the heavyweight division against the best, like Francis Ngannou, like Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, people forget Derek Lewis is still a top tier contender within the heavyweight division. And if you didn't realize that he has a one-shot knockout power, last night bloody reminded you that he has one-shot knockout power from any angle. That was the weirdest angle that I've seen someone get knocked out as well.
I tell you who Dana White does care about.
Yeah.
Otman Azaitar. He loves Otman, doesn't he? He just going really off piste. He loves Otman Azaitar.
I was very surprised to see that, actually.
I was staggered.
What's in the bag? What's in the bag? Is this going to be the great story of 2021? What is in the flipping bag?
Oh, whatever's in the bag, he's back.
It was a bag of cash that he gave Dana to say sorry. That's what it was.
Probably was, man. Wow, that was crazy. And just no explanation as well. Just like he is back in the UFC.
No, that was it.
That's it.
Completely. Someone else that will be staying in the UFC is obviously Derek Lewis. It was an absolutely fantastic knockout last night, you know, and it was crazy to see. You know, we had Brian on the show last time talking about weight cutting and stuff, and he obviously has a wrestling background, and he messaged me straight away and was like, why did he try and shoot on such a big guy with no setup, no inside leg kick, no jab, no counter strike, and then change levels? There was just nothing. He just flew in from outside of range and just flew straight in, head down as well. It was almost like, it was the kind of thing you'd see in like a fighting movie where it's choreographed to the point where it just looks a bit silly, you know. And I don't even think he got hit in the head, not in the head. Sorry, I don't think he got hit on the chin. It was more like Derek Lewis's entire forearm smashed the entirety of Curtis Blaydes' face. Yeah, literally, it was insane. And then obviously Curtis Blaydes completely froze up and turned into a statue like he'd just seen Medusa. And then Derek Lewis just kind of shrugged him off. And at that point, you know, I think Herb Dean was like, right, I'm not sure what's happened here. I'm not sure if Curtis Blaydes is still alive. I don't know what's going on. And then you see him dart across the cage to, you know, I'm surprised that he didn't try and pull Derek Lewis off as opposed to jump onto Curtis Blaydes. I thought that was quite strange. Usually you see them just rugby tackle these dudes that are throwing bombs, but it's one of them things, man. Like we spoke about earlier, Masvidal did not need to hit Askren again, but he did because who knows? He might get up. Do you know what I mean? But I thought, you know what? I thought that Curtis Blaydes was actually winning the fight. I thought he was doing really well at controlling range, controlling distance. He was piecing him up with the leg kicks. I thought that was very, very good. Hitting Derek Lewis, as we know, is a big dude, and he's very, very flat-footed. So his lead leg is always just sat there, ripe for the picking. You know, Curtis Blaydes was doing very well. We all assumed that he would shoot super early. He didn't. But I was very upset that it went the way it did, to be honest with you. And it was after a few eye pokes as well. I think it was an eye poke, and then it was a reset, and then they kind of went on.
I think he caught a slap from Curtis Blaydes, and then the ref told him to carry on, and then just destruction, man. I agree as well. I thought Curtis Blaydes was winning that. I thought he had really great footwork. I think he was managing the distance beautifully against someone like Derek Lewis, who was just basically waiting for him to throw a shot to then jump in and do what he does. The start of that fight was kind of like watching two counter fighters go at it, which is just like one guy stands a little bit further away from each other. Let's just kind of see who's making the first move here. And, you know, Derek explodes like crazy. Like he can just go from zero to explosion like that. And when you are already a freight train as it is, when you're an exploding freight train, that equals destruction. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Rumble's knockout of Glover. Obviously, Glover didn't go as hard for the takedown as Curtis Blaydes did. And it was weird. He was almost like he was in the middle of the octagon, and then he was like at Derek Lewis's knee already trying to do the takedown, and just Derek read him like a book, man. And just the other thing as well, like I tweeted this actually after watching that knockout, which was, and a few people were like, whoa, which was I said that it was interesting to see Curtis Blaydes get knocked out, how we think that all wrestlers should get knocked out, which is either by uppercut or by knee. And so that's always kind of the game plan, but you just never see it work out. So I think it was actually quite satisfying to see someone who is about to go shooting for a takedown and get uppercutted to death. And all respect to Curtis Blaydes. I think he's going to come back. I remember as well, it really distinctly sticks out to me that he threw like a really George St. Pierre style combination, which was like he punched him, and as Derek Lewis was going back, he hit him with a leg kick and offset him. And I thought that was a fantastic combination. And I love to see more of that super dynamic kicking punches, 2 kicks as well. I think his stand-up game really improved as well. You could see like mad improvement in his confidence, and also in his combination shot selection was really, really cool. Just unfortunate, man. Like that's the game that these guys are playing, and they're heavyweights with small ass gloves, man. So that is going to happen 90% of the time. And but to see him get put out like that was obviously very tough, man. He was out for quite a bit there as well. So like, was really, really concerned there, but awesome to see him get back on his feet as well. Like, you see a lot of guys, obviously, when they've been knocked out, they get back up and they're in almost like disbelief. But I think he accepted that this could have been the outcome of the fight, and he looked very accepting of the fact that he did actually just get finished there. So I think Curtis Blaydes, again, is one of those dudes who's just very, very respectful. Even when there is a little bit of crap talking between them, I think ultimately Curtis Blaydes is in here to prove that he's the best. He doesn't strike me as a super like, oh, I'm all about the money, I'm all about the fame, I'm all about this or that. He's always struck me as a guy that has come in to be the best and to prove that he's the best. George mentioned he's only got one fight in his contract. I would really hate to see him leave the UFC here and be utilized, and I hate to say this, utilized correctly in another promotion. And that's kind of what Corey Anderson is looking at here, is being utilized in the correct position despite being one of the best in that division. Now, Curtis Blaydes hasn't taken as many brutal knockouts as Corey Anderson, but that was definitely one to add to that list, man. Hope he feels better soon, man, and hope that he can bounce back, take a significant amount of time here, rest his brain, come back a fresh fighter with a fresh game plan.
Absolutely. But the real big question I had after the fight was, where does Derek Lewis go from here? He said he wants to fight Stipe. Stipe might lose against Francis, and then Francis has the belt. Stipe might retire. Do you know what I mean? He's been the champ twice. Do you know what I mean? He's regained the title. Is Stipe going to retire? Is Francis going to take over? And then obviously we've got the introduction of John Jones into the heavyweight division as well. And Derek Lewis said, I hear John Jones needs a fight, but I see Jones piecing him up personally.
No, I think it's the same thing that you're looking at if you're looking at a Francis Ngannou fight, right? A Francis Ngannou fight is going to look remarkably close, similar to what Derek Lewis is going to bring to any of these other heavyweight guys. Obviously, not saying that they're the exact same fighter. I think obviously Francis is a lot more quicker. He's a lot more svelte. So obviously his footwork and things like that are much different to a Derek Lewis. Now, where the difference is that what did we talk about before when we were talking about John Jones going up to heavyweight? What is he there to prove? He's there to prove that he can take a massive shot at the end of the day, right? Obviously, GOAT talk and all that kind of stuff is one thing. Him getting the heavyweight title is another thing. But I think ultimately, if you cut away all of those things, what is he really going up to heavyweight to prove? That he can take those big shots. And I think that is a really, really good test to show that he belongs in the heavyweight division. Obviously, he's going to probably work a lot of these guys, but I think it's good for him, and he's also, he hasn't fought since Dominic Reyes as well. Like, that's quite a long time between fights here. Stipe's going to fight Francis, and going off of the track record of the Stipe and the Francis and the DCs of this, I would say that we need to see some more activity out of him before he jumps into those heavyweight title fights. And, he's the GOAT, so obviously he's going to get whatever he wants, but would love to see that fight, man. And I think, even if they don't do it right now, they'll eventually get to that.
Yeah, I agree. George, where do you see Blaydes going after this?
Oh, Blaydes. Christ. Gone Rosenstrike, maybe. Yeah, God, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to know. I guess it's somebody like that for Blaydes, isn't it? I guess either of those, maybe not Rosenstrike, but maybe Garn might take that. One more fight and then a title shot if Garn comes through Rosenstrike. In terms of Derek Lewis, I guess John Jones kind of makes sense in a weird kind of way as a kind of opening fight for John Jones. I would be down to see those two kind of go out. Although I do think John Jones beats him, just because the skill set level is so high that he'll find a way probably to beat him. But Derek Lewis, man, Christ alive. One punch changes everything, don't it, in heavyweights? Jesus Christ. Because it was all going to plan, wasn't it, for Curtis Blaydes? It was all like, yeah, sweet, doing what I got to do, happy days, yeah, sweet, yeah, great, won the first round. I'll crack on here, win the second one, and then Derek Lewis is in serious trouble because I'm rounds up. And Jesus Christ, I mean, he made him like plank board, didn't he? It was, but I mean, we knew this, like you just said, we knew this coming in. Derek Lewis has hard hands and he hits like a freight train. And if he catches you flush, it's good night. And I suppose this will happen to anybody if Derek Lewis catches you flush. It's not just Curtis Blaydes. Anyone gets caught heavy by him, it's going to be night, and and then wake up and ask what the hell's happened. But yeah, in terms of going forward for these two guys, I guess Curtis Blaydes might look at Garn, might look at Rosenstrike. Derek Lewis, if the UFC came to Derek Lewis and said, "Do you fancy John Jones?" He's not saying no to that. No chance. But definitely. I suppose, in a weird way, he could start to say, "I deserve a title shot." In a weird way, because if Curtis Blaydes won last night, he would have been saying it. So why doesn't Derek Lewis deserve it? He won't get it, but you might as well give it might as well call for it. Like I suppose he didn't. I suppose he did in a way, didn't he? Because he said he wanted Miocic, who's the current champion. But yeah, I do wonder though whether, like, last night was great from Derek Lewis. It was a real, a fantastic win. But I wonder when he comes into the title fight in a real pressurized situation. This is the moment you've got to take it. Whether he might be able to stand up and take that, whether he might just find it all too much. And maybe just now at his age, he just wants to have fights that are big payday fights at 37 years old, is he? 36, 37? Maybe just wants the big payday now. He's not really bothered about the title. He just wants the money. But he was great. He was fantastic. And what a knockout. Beautiful. Could be a knockout of the year.
Personally, you know what you just said about him, chasing the belts or whatever. He's the kind of guy that, I don't know, I would never see him as the champ. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you could ever see the strap wrapped around his waist, or, you couldn't see Dana White, resting this belt on his shoulder kind of thing. I just couldn't see that personally. Do you know what I mean? He's a fantastic fighter. He's a very exciting fighter. And the fact that he was the betting underdog as well in that bout was insane. I put a little bit of money on Derek Lewis getting the KO in either the third or the fourth. I think naturally he got it done a little bit quicker, which was a bit annoying because the odds were absolutely fantastic. But at the end of the day, the heavyweights are really starting to make a little bit more noise. We had 3 heavyweights fight last night. We've got more fighting next week. It's about time that the heavyweight division had a little bit, of an upsurge as well. And as we always say, the top 5 in each division is so tightly packed. You kind of need to wait for a year, 18 months before all these kind of guys fight each other and stuff like that before you can get someone getting the title. And then you have to wait 3 to 6 months before the champ wants to fight again. And then the champ only wants to fight once a year. So it's, it is difficult. It's very, very difficult. But I'm actually really looking forward to the Rosenstrike versus Garn fight. I think that's going to be really, really interesting. Garn I think he's had less than 10 fights in his career, right? So that's going to be insane. But we're going to break that down next week as well. Is there anything else on the card that kind of caught your eye that you want to discuss before we sign off here?
I just wanted to say that the heavyweight, for the first time I could think of in quite a while, has got it feels like it's got quite a lot of people coming through. You look at Garn and Rosenstrike, Aspinall and Dorcas, even Blaydes, Lewis, John Jones coming into it. You got Ngannou fighting for the title. It feels like it feels like there's actually a bit of depth there now, and some pretty big fights can be made over the next 18, 24 months in that division. So yeah, no, exciting times back at heavyweight for sure.
Definitely. Prath?
Just my last one, I just really, really love that flying knee from Julian Erosa, man. What a beautiful, beautiful knockout there. Obviously, Nate had protested when he got up, but he was clearly done. I think he took some quite big shots there before he had that flying knee dropped on him, man. Beautiful victory for Julian Erosa, who came from McGregor, Faber, Tough, has fought on the Contender Series. and is starting to, you know, piece together a little bit of a win streak here, man. So I'm hoping he can keep it together. And he was, for me, was one of the standout fighters from that season. So awesome to see him get a big W here.
Also, last thing, it's a bit of a random point, but did you notice Costendia's nickname?
Is it another one for Crush Corner?
It's called he called himself the Sexy Mexi.
Yeah.
What a shit name. Oh, honestly, he needs to go and rethink there.
But we always say this. I'm a big, just don't have a nickname. Do you know what I mean? We've had Cheesecake in the past. We've had like just stupid names. But another point, just while we're on it, I noticed a few people had their nails painted yesterday. Obviously, Andrei Arlovski had his nails painted, both top and bottom. There was a few people on the prelims as well, and I kind of tweeted out like, why have they got their nails painted? And apparently, it's to stop them from cracking during the fight if you get caught in the cage or something like that. I never knew that, so there you go. Now everyone knows.
Arlovski's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was because they were taking a stand against Stephen A. Smith.
Taking a stand for something.
Fair point.
For women.
I like
go
it.
fuck himself.
All right. On that bombshell, we're going to wrap up the show. Thank you very much for tuning into the channel. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, of course, and all that good stuff. At Fighting Talk 2 on Twitter.
And drop me those birthday messages. Those birthday messages.
Don't forget the birthday messages for George. Find us over on Instagram at Fighting Talk 2. Twitter, like I say, at Fighting Talk 2 as well. And obviously on YouTube and all of those good things. Until next time, thank you very much. And thank you very much, boys, for joining me.